Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Well, welcome to the first edition of WTF Moments of the Week. We're not sure how often we'll do it. I'm not sure if it goes well. Great.
I think it'll go awesome. We are so excited. There are so many moments throughout the week of trial that we're just looking at things and listening to things, and we're like, what the F? So why not get them all together, compile all those moments, and we can all make fun of all these batshit crazy people together. So
yes,
that's what we're doing.
Not only that, but Brother Brewmeister and Chart Lady Cult Leader, we are joined by a third person today, and we're very excited. We are going to, well, here we go. Everybody say hi to Bob Motta from Defense Diaries podcast.
What's up? Super excited to be here with you guys.
The super famous, world-renowned criminal defense attorney, legal analyst, the creator of one of my favorite podcasts. Like JT said, Defense Diaries is one of my absolute favorites. And now we've been streaming Lori Vallow here in the evenings and experiencing that whole shit show together. And you and your wife, Bob, y'all are covering the trial, and y'all get to do all the legal analysis stuff that us jurors, lay people don't get to do. So tell us about Strings Attached and why you named it that too.
Yeah. So, and thank you for that intro. It was wonderful. I really appreciate it. So yeah, like the regular pod is Defense Diaries. Right now we've got an offshoot that we call the Docket. And that, because I was going nuts. Like I cover, like, the first season was Gacy. My dad was Gacy's lawyer, left me the tapes. I did 36 episodes of things epic. Second season is the trial that Allison and I tried out in Omaha, Nebraska, with the doctor that was accused and ultimately convicted of murdering 4 people over 5 years. And just an insane case. And we're just getting to the trial on that. Another long season, I think. We're on episode 38 of that. So my seasons are not short. But it was driving me crazy. I'm like, there's so much happening in the true crime world with these trials. I'm like, I've got to do something. So we created the Docket. We're about, like, at this point, we're about 13 episodes in. And then I decided, because Vallow wasn't being televised or streamed, I'm like, I'm covering this. And my wife, Allison, who's also my law partner, so she's my partner in life and my partner in law, brilliant attorney, best attorney, smartest attorney I know, to be honest with you. Of course, I'm biased, but I think when you all start listening to her, you'll all agree. Like, I'm already getting, like, messages on Facebook, like, oh, why doesn't Allison have her own pod? I'm like, whoa, everyone. I'm like, hey, I'm smart enough to know that I'm going to have her cover these, like, moving forward. She's going to be with me. She's going to be my partner on all these cases because she's brilliant. And I know that my female listeners are going to really relate to her, and they're going to love her. She's a badass, so, which is why I fell in love with her to begin with. I met her in law school. So what we do is, in the Docket, we are doing definitely the deepest dive on Vallow. We're going witness by witness. We're dropping between 3 and 4 episodes a week. So, like, for us, we were very happy that it was dark in the courtroom on Friday, because frankly, it gave us an opportunity to try to catch up over the weekend and get some witnesses. Because some of the witnesses are long and the episodes are long.
Yeah.
We're playing clips from the testimony. So we're doing the heavy lifting as far as that goes. We're listening to all the testimony from an attorney's perspective. And we're trying to pick out what we think is most important for the 13th jurors to listen to, instead of them having to spend 5 hours listening to it after they've worked an entire day, and they might not be up for it. So we pick out, between half an hour, 40 minutes of clips, and then we discuss why we think it matters, how it plays into the case. We just give our typical legal analysis. It's kind of like the same thing I do on the Law and Crime and Court TV thing, except way better, because I can air it out. We can talk. Allison, I have, like, really kind of, it's a super cool thing for me, because I'm like, I'm a solo host. So I love being able to have that dialogue with her where we're talking about the law, and we're trying to, like, give, because you guys love watching the legal drama. You guys love watching trials, and, by way of not having gone to law school, there may be nuances that you guys are like, well, damn, I don't know exactly what that means. And, like, what I do always in my pod, even in my serialized, we try to explain those nuances so that when you hear, like, a turn of phrase in legalese, you actually know what the hell it means, you know, because it increases your enjoyment and your understanding of what you're watching, you know, especially like when we were in Murdoch, when a lot of us all came together, like that was like a really, really huge bonding experience for a lot of us. I mean,
Yeah.
an amazing trial. And, you know, I realized like when the 404B stuff was going on with the financial crimes there, like that, like for me, that trial was like a dream. It was like a lawyer's trial because there was just so much going on that really typically goes on behind the scenes. Like motion work leading up to a trial in terms of what's going to be admissible and what's not going to be admissible is the real war. I say it all the time in my podcast. It's like they never televise motions like prior to trial, but that is where everything what is going to be heard by the jurors is determined. It's not at trial. You know, they've gone in and they've fought and fought really, really hard to keep things out or to get things in. So, you know, we just try to explain all that stuff in a way that's, you know, educational, but more importantly, entertaining. So yeah, that's
and something I've noticed too is even streaming it here, when I go back and I listen to your episodes, I catch things that from y'all's perspective, from attorney perspective, I've caught things, or I haven't caught, y'all have caught things, and I've got to hear a different perspective of it. Because even streaming it here, you know, I'm hearing every single word, but there are things that y'all point out that I'm like, ooh, you know, so.
And I like, to me, it's like easier to digest, like, because we're doing the heavy lifting by listening to it all. Like we're like literally like, and it's a lot. Like I'm still trying to get my Garcia stuff for season 2 done.
Right.
And like I've signed up for this thing. No one forced me to do it, but like once I say I'm doing it, I'm like all in. So my producer has like Darren's got 5 of these in the can. Yeah. We're down recording the 6th one, and he's like overwhelmed, like trying to produce it. And then he's got 2 tracks. Like this is like kind of behind the scenes stuff. So he's got 2 tracks of Alice and I, who in the first episode are talking over each other the entire time. Like, you know, it's like it's funny. It's like we've been together 20 plus years, so you're hearing like basically a married couple that both happen to be attorneys just doing what they do in real life. And I'm like, okay. So by the second, third episodes, we start to figure it out. A lot less interrupting, you know, but we still want it to be natural. We want it to be organic in terms of the conversation that we're having, because it's the same thing that we have like when we're laying in bed talking about the case. You know what I mean? It's like the same. Because it's interesting. Like to me, it's a horrible case. Let's just get that right. I mean, kids lost their lives. 2 other adults lost their lives. It's brutal in every single way. But from a legal side of it, like what this trial is unbelievable. It has everything. Like I'm just telling you, if they were streaming this, it would blow Murdoch out of the water just because of the tentacles it has, like the whole thing with the religion thing, and you know, just like and like I don't want to start talking about it because we're doing a stream tomorrow. It's all Valo. I hope you all join us because we're gonna crush it, and we'll dig into all this stuff. So let's do the fun stuff we're gonna do. But yeah, the docket, you can find it anywhere you get your pods. On Apple, it is under season 3, just so you know. Like in Apple, I can't delineate the docket, so you have season 1, season 2, and all of our docket episodes are in season 3, and they'll run, you know, in order of date that they were published. So if you guys are looking for it, that's a spot.
And I like too how and I know that you know, Allison's starting to kind of come a little bit more to your way of thinking now, but I thought it's been very interesting too about seeing who the puppet master is.
Oh, you know, God, I'm sorry you asked me that question. So yes, I came up with strings attached because the more I dug into the case, the more it, like my feeling personally. Now, Allison, you're right. She's coming more way. Like I feel that Lori is the one up there with the marionette. That the men in her life, like my thing, I call her a Svengali. Like she just has the ability to get men under her control. And like the more she's dug in, the more she's seen that Lori has been of this mindset since her 3rd husband. Like when Joe Ryan and her were getting divorced and she came with the allegations of sexual assault because the kids had made an outcry or they didn't. I don't know. I just got a huge, like a huge document dump from somebody, like 5,000 pages. Oh, wow. I've been digging into that entire period of time where Lori back in 2006, 2007, when she's divorcing her 3rd husband and this custody battle that goes on. and Joe Ryan is Tylee's bio dad. Okay, so
Mhm.
he is the bio dad, and Colby existed, but Colby's father was a dipshit, wasn't really a part of his life. So like Colby, like when you hear him in his testimony, which we'll get to tomorrow, devastating. But he was like
Yeah.
he wanted a dad. So when Charles Vallow came into his life, that was the first guy that was like, I love you. I'm gonna like I'm
Mhm.
your dad. Like I got you, kid. And so like, but you see this dynamic of this custody battle that I see all the time in the law when you have two parents that are fighting, that hate each other, that are
Yeah.
fighting over a child, and you get this allegation of sexual, criminal sexual assault against a child, which is the worst. Like you never get that stink off you, whether you're proven guilty in court, whether if it goes to court. As a human being, you never lose that stink. Once that is out there in the public that somebody's accused you of doing that, that's on you forever. Like that's going to be the first thing that's on somebody's mind if they've heard of it. When they look at you, like, oh, look, God, there's the guy who was accused of molesting his kids.
Yeah.
It never goes away. It's just, you can't unring that bell. So like my thing has always been, I think that Lori, that she was looking for a Chad, and then she found that Chad who happened to have written books, who happened to have a following of some kind, and she said, "This is my guy. This is the guy that's good." Because she was already in to in the whole the LSD or the LDS is a thing.
Freudian slip.
So like the tenets of that aren't that far removed from what's going on with the doomsday cult thing. They've obviously added like the light and darkness sliding chart where he's pointing like a number, and the zombie thing and the demon things are additions made by them, but like kind of the basis of the religion is not dissimilar. I mean, the Latter-day Saints means that they believe that the end of days is coming, and that the last 144,000 are going to be the survivors, and they're going to be the guardians, the keepers of the gate, who are going to decide who's getting in and who's not getting in. So that concept is there, and you have this interplay of a like $1 billion corporation, that being a church, which is a 501c3 not for profit, like every religious organization, that has wanted to keep a massive distance away from this case. They have no interest in having that in any way affiliated with what they do, so it's very interesting to see how that plays out. And I just think that Lori has always, since 8, like her mother said, she was indoctrinated at the age of 8, right? But I keep slipping into, I think she's the puppet master. I think she's running the show. We'll do all that tomorrow, because I know we're doing it.
Yes.
Well, and if you haven't listened, if any of our folks that are watching haven't listened to Defense Diaries, I think the thing that I really like about it, and I think I've told you this, Bob, is that it does present a perspective that you don't usually hear unless it's at like the end of a trial interview, and that's from the defense.
Right.
And at least in terms of tactics and strategy, and it kind of opens your eyes.
Yeah.
Because I don't think a lot of people kind of open their eyes to that. There's, I'm sure you've dealt with it, with the whole defense is the enemy.
Yeah.
But they're just doing their job.
Well, so, JT, like I preach, like I am trying to educate people as to what defense attorneys really do, because like all the true crime cut that we've all like gobbled up over the past 2-3 decades is always from the state side. It's you're hearing the government's perspective. You hear prosecutors and you hear the police and the detectives, and make no bones about it, that is the government. Like that is who they are. So like we all cheer for Creighton Waters when he goes down, because he's a giant piece of shit and the guy's exactly where he should be. I mean, we all agree on that. Like whether or not I think he's actually the guy who actually physically did the killing, because I still don't know. I know for a fact he's exactly where he needs to be, and I think that he absolutely had a hand. Like I'm one of those guys that tends to think that Murdoch may have hired some help there, and that those 72 text messages that vanished. And remember, they couldn't get that data. Like either he had switched phones, like a phone company is only going to hold what the actual text messages were for 30 days. They didn't get to Alex Murdoch for a year. after that thing went down. You know, I mean, it was a long time. So
Yeah.
those 72 text messages that they know that happened, because when they get the bill, they see that there were messages that went out. Now, if the guys were smart enough to use a burner, they can never make the connect on who those phone calls were. But if I'm Murdoch, and everybody's like, well, he would have had a better timeline. I'm like, you're giving that guy way too much credit. like look at how the roadside shooting went down.
Yeah.
That dude's
shit show.
That's how that dude planned shit. You know, it's like things are evolving in his life way faster than he could handle. And he comes up with half-baked idea. Like, so whatever, that's an aside. He's like, I want everybody to know he's guilty. I'm happy. I'm thrilled where he's at. For sure, I think that it was the way that the state said it went down. But whatever way it got him in the joint, I'm thrilled. But, you know, as far as you know, when you have prosecutors, everyone kind of loves them. But then when you kind of look at the other side of it, what defense attorneys really do, what we really, really do, is we defend the principles of the Constitution. Okay, like when people are like, how do you defend such an awful person? I say, well, I put my head down and I make sure that the cops did their job properly. I make sure that my client, the second thing is I make sure that my client gets a fair trial. And the third thing that defense attorneys truly do is we police the police, meaning I make sure that they follow the Constitution that protects us, the citizens. See, that's what people forget. Defense attorneys are the defenders of the Constitution from government tyranny. If we're not there filing motions that people call technicalities, meaning like, oh, the guy got off on a technicality. Well, no, what happened is the cops violated his Fourth Amendment rights and conducted a search that they didn't have a probable cause to conduct, which affects all of us. If lawyers aren't filing those motions to suppress and where they get the bite, meaning that it's ruled through the poisonous tree because it was a bad search and the state uses that evidence. If those teeth don't exist, meaning that they don't lose that evidence, we are living in a world where the police can do whatever they want to do. They can kick our doors in, they can pull us over, they can rip us out of our cars. So people that are like, oh, I'm not a criminal, I don't give a shit. Well, that's what you say until you get pulled over and your life changes in a terrible, terrible way. So that's really what defense attorneys do. And, you know, I mean, the bottom line is we all care about victims the most.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is who these stories about, these trials are about, the victims, more than the defendant, more than anybody else. And the only way that we're getting justice is making sure that the right person goes down for the crimes. And if you have some incompetent moron as a defense attorney, that's not happening. And that trial is going to get kicked on appeal. It's going to get thrown back down, and that family has to sit in that courtroom and watch this trial and go through that trauma again. We want to get it right the first time. And the way that that's done is by having good, competent attorneys on both sides of the aisle, vetting the evidence, and then letting a jury make a decision based on what they've heard, not on their feelings. It's like we're all guilty of ruling, like our feelings rule, our emotions rule us. And that's because we're human beings, because we give a shit, you know, because we're pathetic. And we want, like when we see two little babies have been killed, we want somebody to fucking go down for that. Pardon my French, but we want somebody's paying the price for that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a hard thing to like put aside when you're sitting on a jury, but you've got to do it. You've got to do it like as best as we can. You know, like me as a lawyer, I know the reality of that. I know that people are not going to be able to do that 100%. You know, and the state uses that to their advantage. They know that too. Like they are always like, when you see one of the first few evidence, like pieces of evidence coming in through a cop, and they're talking about the brutal description of the either the discovery of the bodies or how the murder took place, doing that to elicit rage from the jurors. They want the jurors to know this is what happened to this human being, and somebody needs to pay the price, and you need to trust us that we got the right guy. This is the guy that you need to be committed. And when I say guy, just so you know, I use it genderlessly. Like I always call the perp the guy, whether it's a man or a woman. So all right, enough of me. Let's go have fun. Let's do it.
So speaking of defense attorneys, our first little WTF moment actually starts with the defense attorney. In the opening statements for Lori Vallow, the opening statement.
It was so bad.
So bad.
So bad.
So we started laughing because we were listening and we're like, you know, the first however many minutes he's basically giving his resume and
Talking about bomb threats.
Talking about bomb threats to his office, and and then he says that he's so creepy with it. He tells the jury, he's like, "I know a lot about y'all. I've been reading your questionnaires."
Weirdo.
It was so bad, and I think Jay, I think you have a clip of
I do
a small part of it, right?
Yeah, it's about 17 seconds. So here we go.
That's really all we need to get the full flavor
of the entire opening. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no.
All right, here we go.
Know a lot about you with your 12-page or 20-page questionnaires.
So creepy.
Like to make a brief introduction. I was assigned to this case. I'm paid by the taxpayers, and so thank you for paying your taxes.
Wow.
Thank you for paying your taxes.
Yeah. What a guy. What a guy. Because like he's exactly what Taylor is for the Idaho 4 case. So like Idaho does that thing where he's got a private practice, but because certain counties aren't big enough, they pick guys that are private practice that also do public defense work. So he's the same thing as like Ann Taylor is in that case, except she seems to be a good lawyer. That's what's going on. Like I think we're gonna get a completely different trial there. Yeah, this dude, man, like when I listened to that opening, I'm like, oh man. And like he didn't argue anything. No. Dude, and when I say argue on openings, you're not supposed to argue anything. It's all, you're just giving what the jury should expect to see during the trial. But, he's basically he's arguing reasonable doubt that's it, that they're not going to be able to prove the case, and like we're getting to it in our episode, there's not going to be any kind of mental defense, like mental defect defense in this Vallow case. And insanity's off the table, but there is a way that you can attack like the mens rea or the mental part of the crimes in Idaho. And like we dug in the docket, like not the docket, but the court docket, and there is no filings by the defense that they're gonna. So they're. I don't think, this is my prediction, I don't think they're gonna put on anything in defense. Not one witness.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they have. And I mean, judging by his opening statements, I mean, I know about him and his career in his law office and things that he's experienced. And I know that he has read about the jurors, but he gave nothing as far as the actual.
Exactly. Nothing.
Oh, yeah, that was
like in like the States wasn't anything to write home about, but like comparing it to that low bar, like what he put on, she sounded a little robotic, but I'm watching it like with a critical eye as a defense, as a trial lawyer. I'm like, oh man, she sounds like a robot. Like, it's money, sex, and power. So I was like, man, but at least she gave them something to kind of like, like sink their teeth into.
Yeah.
I just didn't say shit. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Our next kind of WTF moment. Have you been watching? I know. I follow you on Twitter, and I know that you are not a Letitia fan.
I'm not a
None of us are. But have you been watching any of her stuff? I know you're busy with everything else. Have you watched any of her stuff this week?
I have. Like, unfortunately, for whatever reason, because I do the court TV and the law and crime thing. So, like, every time I'm on, all I ever want to talk about, as you can tell, is Vallow.
Right.
And we're always covering Letitia's case.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, I've seen quite a bit of it. I know this week was just filled with hearing her rancid voice just try to like bullshit Al and the feds like all week,
So bad. So bad. And her behavior this week has been like ridiculous. So she's had her hairstyle. The whole hair thing. It started. Oh yes, we have some funny tweets and stuff.
That's amazing.
That was
spot on, really.
It really does. It looks just like her.
Just like her. I mean, it's incredible.
We had the other night on the stream, I had my hair done. I had a request to do my hair in the Letitia way too. So yep, there it is.
Hey, wow. I mean, if you're a brunette, it's spot on. You could probably get the cousinette thing going too.
Oh yeah, like
sure.
the hair curtain thing where
the girl from The Ring.
Yes,
exactly.
Oh yes, somebody tweeted that too. Something about that too. That about her looking like the girl from The Ring, and there was a couple tweets about that. Oh, and then yes, this is another one. The Princess Leia. She came out one day and she had the two. I mean,
that's almost blasphemy for like a Star Wars fan.
There it is.
Why are you gonna mess with Leia, man? Like, I'm an old dude, so like in '77 when Star Wars came out, like Princess Leia was like a bombshell. And then with like the Empire Strikes Back and then Return of the Jedi, like if you all are Star Wars fans, like when they had Princess Leia like in that getup, I was like, what? Yep. when I see them defacing the lovely Princess Leia.
So you're saying that Letitia didn't give you that same effect? Like you didn't have the same? No, okay. Just clarifying.
Yeah.
Oh, look, this is one of my favorites from Jams. She said, instead of her nose growing with each lie, Letitia Stout has a Furby that continues to grow every time. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Is that what that thing is on her head? Oh my.
Yeah, she just. I don't know what she's going for.
Like a side bun?
She had like two. Well, at one part she had just one, and then she had the two, and it was like it looks like. I mean, yeah, Furby's on her head.
Exactly.
Oh, and then we have all of her head down. Oh, meds kicked in.
Oh man. All right, so let me ask y'all. All right, it's the 13th jurors.
Yes.
Do you think so? And remember, this is an insanity case, and this is the insanity defense. Are you buying what she's selling, and do you think she's selling something? So
I think, I think she's definitely trying to sell something. But I ain't buying it. My thing is the heifer's definitely nuts. Like she's nuts.
There's no question.
But she's sane. She's sane. She knows right from wrong.
That's right. So thank you for saying that, because Brandi, you're exactly right. There's an absolute difference between being clinically ill, medically ill, and legally insane. Completely different things. And just so you all know, because I'm on Court TV, and like the hosts are getting it wrong all the time. I'm like, because Colorado's a different type of state, so and I try to do my research before I go on. And typically, like in Illinois, if I have an insanity plea case or an insanity defense case, I'm going in and it's my burden to prove that my client's insane. And it's like that in most states of the union. There's a few states like Idaho that doesn't even have the insanity defense anymore, but Colorado is different. What Colorado does is that at the time of arraignment, so arraignment is when the defendant is given the formal notice of what they're being charged with, and that's when they say either they plead guilty or not guilty. Okay, and it's typically done through a lawyer. So in Colorado, if you were going to try to use the defense of not guilty by reason of insanity, you have to do it at your arraignment. Now, there's a few exceptions, which actually she fell under because she came in initially without a lawyer, and she pled not guilty. So as soon as she was appointed a lawyer, which happened very quickly, they're like, whoa there, killer. Like, let's reel it back in a little bit. You're nuts. So this is the only way. Like, they've got you dead to rights. So and what happens when you plead like an insanity defense, you are by operation of law admitting that you have committed the crime. So like people are watching this trial thinking like, well, she keeps lying, but like people forget she's already admitted she killed. Like by that plea, and when I say plea, I'm talking about the defense, because you plead guilty or you plead not guilty in the beginning. So like when she did that, when they put forth the insanity defense, she has made the admission that she was responsible for the death. Now, what they're saying is that because of her mental defect, she was not responsible for it. So people I just want people to remember that when they're watching it, because like when I'm tweeting, guys, I'm like, oh man, like do people still think that they're trying to prove the case? So when they're playing all that shit, like all these calls with Al, which are just devastating. I mean, that dude is unbelievable. The way he can, like, I would be like a lunatic.
Yeah.
Talking to her, like scream, like if I believe that she killed one of my kids, I'd be out of, like, he is a way better man than I in terms of being able to control his emotions and just be cool. Like he's just trying to get the information from her, and he's just the guy's super impressive to be. I'm like, man, that guy is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Like, that's why they're playing all that to show she's sane. Like everything she did to evade detection, everything she did afterwards, the things that she was Googling before, She
Mhm.
knows right
Yeah.
from wrong. There's two ways to do it in Colorado. It's either you don't have the ability to know right from wrong, or the second one is that she has a disease or a defect of the mind that does not allow her to form the requisite intent. Meaning, like, she thought that Gannon was a demon, like not that he was acting like a demon, but that he was a physical manifestation of a demon. And you hear nothing in any of these phone calls or any of these witnesses that she said anything even remotely that would think anybody think that she was having delusions like
Right.
that.
Right.
So, you know, like, cause I tweeted the other day, I'm like, y'all, this shit's foregone conclusion. And there, you know, some people were like, oh, I want justice for Gannon. I'm like, we all do. I'm
Yeah.
just telling you, I know, like, my first rule is you never know what a jury's going to do because you don't.
Right.
I have lost cases where Alice and I have tried and we're like, man, we crushed that. We're walking out of here with a not guilty, and they come back with a guilty. You just never know. You never know what's going to affect a jury in terms of the demeanor of the defendant, whether or not some witness like was really compelling to them. When they put on the detective that talked about the condition of this child and the fact that she drove across country with this child crammed in a piece of luggage with her daughter with her on this trip, and the torture that poor kid went over, there's no way. Like, there's under no circumstances, because like that story that she was sexually abused, all of that came rushing back, and she thought that she was killing her attacker is bullshit. And then she may have been abused, and that is very real trauma.
Right.
But that doesn't turn into this.
No, especially when you've got a Google history of, you know, I don't like my stepson.
Right. And where's mom? Why am I raising this other woman's kid? You know, like over and over and over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I hate her. Like attorney, I'm like, man, like that is one. Like, because everybody's like, why are these two jerk off defense attorneys like tweeting all the time and playing like Candy Crush on their phone? And I'm like, yeah, that's unprofessional. Like, because some people are like, you think they're trying to get like you know, ineffective assistance, and I'm like, that wouldn't, like, that doesn't lead to it, because like ineffective assistance of counsel means that the lawyer did or didn't do something that would have changed the outcome of the trial. Like, those guys doing schmucks and looking like shitty defense attorneys doesn't change the outcome of the trial. So like ineffective assistance of counsel not going to bounce back on appeal because they were tweeting or playing a game on their phone.
Yeah, there's one that I put a picture in one of it where he's even like his whole head's back. And
in defense of those guys, could you imagine sitting next to her?
No,
not at all.
It just brutal.
But like, and I know we're gonna get a little bit more into LS throughout this, but like the question for me, Bob, is like, is she pretty much that person where she's just going to do, well, this is probably, I'm answering my own question. She's just going to do whatever she wants. I mean, is the defense just basically like, we can't control her. She's going to do what she's going to do.
Yes.
Because, I mean, it's not a great strategy in terms of her doing
that's
that
what
stuff.
I'm saying. Like in her mind, and we know she's calculating. I mean, like that web of lies that she just it was like never ending with like the stories that she was coming up with and what happened to Gannon.
Yeah,
like in her mind, I think that she thinks that makes her look crazy. The shit that she's doing. I think that she thinks that that's a good strategy in terms of the jury getting that impression of her based on what he's doing, and it's going to have the opposite effect. But what the jury's going to think is that woman doesn't give a shit.
Right.
She's making a mockery of this trial, and I hate her.
Yeah.
That's what it's, you know, like, I don't think she's crazy. I think she's a giant piece of shit.
Yeah.
Going down for this. That's you know,
it's like she watched like a cartoon on Adult Swim and saw like a version of somebody who could be defined as crazy, and she was just like, well, that's what it is in real life. That's what I'm going for now.
Yeah.
So. I agree completely. You know, like I don't know what they're going to put on, obviously, for and like, and the other thing I forgot to say, in Colorado, unlike most states, it's the state's burden. Okay, what the state has to prove, instead of the defense proving she's insane, the state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she is sane.
Yeah.
Not
And I
Right.
think with all of these calls and
Yeah.
her, constantly trying to cover for herself, I think
that's
they've
exactly
done it.
why they're doing it. That's exactly why
Oh,
they're
yeah.
playing everything. Like her ability to just continually come up with lies to avoid
Yeah.
being caught just shows exactly how sane she is.
And
That's why they
and
do it.
there were a couple of moments, I think, on a phone call or two where she was just like, "Wait, let me go get my journal or whatever." Like she had to
She's
go
like
get the
looking at her
story she had
pages.
already done.
She's
Oh, man.
It's just
Yeah, I mean, look, like we said in the beginning, she's mentally ill, but she's not
Yeah.
really insane.
Right.
She knows.
Yeah.
She knew exactly what she was doing. She lost her shit, like
Yeah.
in a moment, and it was probably something where Gannon was annoying her, and she just snapped,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like snapping is not legally insane. It's just not.
Right.
She lost control of everything that was going on with her. Yeah, like to me, she's just evil.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like she is like encapsulate like what an evil person is. Like she's
Oh, yeah.
just got like a black soul. She's soulless. She's like to have conversations with the guy she purportedly loves, being her husband,
Yes.
knowing that she murdered his son, and to be able
Yeah.
to sound like that and act like that. Like the one
Yeah.
call where Al, like when the feds are doing the over here, and the feds are like they instruct him to yawn, like that thing where you hear like Al yawn. Like, did you guys hear that call?
Oh
We
yeah.
have that on our list for tonight. Yeah.
Like that was not like Al just yawning. That was done to elicit a response
Right.
from Letitia, and it did. It worked.
Yeah.
It was super effective. She's like, "Oh, you're yawning now," and then she starts
Yeah.
getting shit up like immediately. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's do a clip. I love the clips. Clips are amazing. What else you guys got?
What's next? Is this the stray bullet?
Oh my gosh, the stray bullet and the pink pony. So on Brandon Boudreaux's
Oh.
cross-examination, I was listening to this, like, talk about ineffective.
Dude. Well, like, I mean, the cross-examinations are non-existent. Like, the only one that had any kind of, like, any real cross-examination was Pastone's. Like, her cross, they actually kind of dug in a little bit. But everybody else has been just, like, kind of like, whoop, ask.
It's been like,
And
I objected to them before, and I'm not going to do it now.
Right. It's like in what's his face, like Thomas, I call him the whisperer, because it's like when you're listening, it sounds like he's whispering. He's like, yeah, so I wanted to ask. It's like he's whispering like secrets to the witness, and they're all like stupid secrets.
Honestly,
he's like it's such a weird, like his dynamic is so weird.
He sounds a lot. The more I listen to him, the more he sounds a lot like, I can't remember the guy's name, but the prosecutor from Making a Murderer.
Yes.
Oh,
do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
He sounds like him.
Yeah.
He does. Yeah, like who I'm not a fan of that guy.
No, he's not a nice person.
Some night I want to do like a whole Stephen Avery thing. I'm dying to see where people lay on that.
I'm obsessed with that whole thing.
Oh my god! And if anyone like I'm going to give everyone homework before we go into that. I'm going to require everybody, and I'll send it to y'all. I want everybody to read Zellner's most recent post-conviction relief act, and then come back and tell me what y'all think. Because like Zellner does not play with dudes that she thinks are guilty. Like she is like to the mat with this case because she believes that Stephen Avery is innocent. And like that's what I'm saying. Like if she starts to get the sense that one of these people that she's fighting for is guilty, she steps off. She's like, boop, I'm out. Like she is taking this thing to the mat, and I think she is coming up. I think she nailed who did this. Like she came up with the who truly did this, and it makes perfect sense. Like she put the pieces together like Waters and those guys did on Murdoch in terms of like who it was who had access to that property. How could her little SUV? How could it have gotten on Stephen's land? Like it all makes sense.
We'll have to do a stream on that one night because I'm so into that.
Like we'll have a blast with it, and it's an insane case. It totally is.
So I think we have a clip of for anybody who missed it, of the
here
part of the cross that we're talking about?
It's about a minute. Here we
The
go.
Jeep had come around that angle and it turned right around and went the other way.
So how far away was the shot that you think came from? You think it came from the Jeep Wrangler? How far away was the Jeep Wrangler from your car when the shot was made?
The car was parked probably a little.
He said you
further.
think it came from the Jeep Wrangler when he saw the gun in the Jeep Wrangler.
Me to you?
Yeah, a little bit further,
30 feet, 20 feet?
somewhere in there.
Okay. And you indicated that only probably 5 people knew where you had lived at the time?
Yes.
And you don't believe this to be a stray bullet or something other than you're pretty positive that this came from that Jeep?
Yes.
A stray bullet. Dude even says, I saw a man with a gun hanging out of the Jeep. And he's like, so you don't think it was a stray bullet?
Right, dude. It's like that. Like we have that clip on our episode when we did Brandon. Dude, and like Alice and I were just like hysterically laughing at that cross-examination because he's like, the window goes up, and I see the what looks to be a silencer coming out, and he's asking him about. He's like, "Did you see the muzzle flash?"
Yeah.
He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "No, I just watched my driver's side window explode, like right after I saw the gun come out of the truck." He's like, and then he asked, "Could it be a stray bullet? Do you think it's possible that it was a stray bullet?" Hey,
Was it the man on the grassy hill?
if you have any way, tweet me those jury instructions. I want to see that because that's unusual. Because when you plead not guilty by reason of insanity, you've admitted to killing it. So I would love to see that jury instruction. Totally. Yeah, that. Like, so if you could send me, because I haven't seen the jury instructions, I haven't dug into that. I just know that for a fact they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he's saying. It doesn't make any sense that they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he's guilty or she's guilty because she's admitted it, like by way of pleading that I killed him, but I had no control. But if you would do that recovery, I'd love that. That would be awesome.
Oh,
One thing that was in the cross-examination too was the thing about the pink pony. So now I'm from Georgia and we have a pink pony. It's a strip club in Atlanta. So I'm thinking, oh, he, got busted at the strip club, but no, it's a restaurant in Gulf Shores. It's not even, and it wasn't even like it wasn't even
nothing.
like it was nothing.
I thought it was a gay club.
Yeah, that's how he made it sound.
Right. She's like, he's gay. And I know he's gay because of this video, which she's like, well, yeah, it was a video that was posted on Facebook for the whole world to see.
Yeah.
So like going in, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I understand having to I don't even know if you call that playing dirty, but bringing that up, I'm not quite sure why, but the line of questioning just didn't tick boxes for me, I guess.
Well,
it didn't do anything. It didn't do anything.
Jay Bird's here. Look, you guys see Jay? Jamie and Jay's.
Hey, Jay.
There he is. What's up? What's up, homie? I got all my favorite homies here.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. That pink pony thing, because look from the defense side of it, they're not going to score any points with any of these witnesses. You know what I mean? And frankly, these witnesses aren't doing any damage because remember, they don't have any evidence of Lori physically killing the kids, right?
Right.
So it's really she's been charged with it. But they're really going after the conspiracy to commit murder, which means that she had an agreement with Chad and or Alex or both of them. And, they're going to have to prove that. Now, my feeling on Lori's case is whether or not the state is able to do it, she's going down. For the same reason Letitia's going down. When Hermosillo got on the stand and described the condition that the kids were found in.
Yeah.
That is seared in the minds of the jurors. And they're looking at this woman who's sitting there with this smug look on her face day after day after day after day. And I don't think the evidence is going to really matter. They've made their judgment as to this woman by way of the fact that you've got months that go by where they're evading law enforcement. She's refusing to give up the location of the kids. And, you know, like, I know if I'm the defense, what I'm arguing for that, I'm arguing that, look, this woman believes this whole doomsday scenario. They think the end of the world is happening. They still do. I believe Lori is sitting in that courtroom 100% believing that the end is coming next March of 24 and that it's ending World War III, is like there's going to be nukes and we're all going to die. And she thinks that what they've been doing is preparing for that inevitable end, and that she thinks that by way of doing what they've done, that she has secured her place as one of the 144, and that she's going to be exalted.
Yeah.
And the jury's not going to care about any of that. They're going to look at the condition of the kids when they were found and how they were murdered. And they're going to look at the fact that this woman didn't seem to give a shit.
Yeah.
What happened to her kids.
Yeah.
You know?
Was even laughing on the phone with Colby.
Oh, God.
Hearing that.
How brutal were those phone calls?
Oh, that was awful.
Oh my God. Like, I felt so bad for that kid. And that kid had she was married 5 times. Like, obviously for Colby, Chad didn't matter, but you know, there's 4 husbands. This kid, like, when Charles became his father, like I said, like, I mean, that was his like dad for finally. He's like, I was dying to have a dad. You know, this was 10 at that point.
Right.
Oh, and the poor kid never had like a real like father figure in his life, you know, and so, and like, that's what I'm saying. Like you could hear that just devastation, because this is like a mom and like a single mom and a son that like just battled through shit together. Like that, he was her little dude. It's like, if you watch like The Sins of the Mother, and like when Colby gets married and how much she detested his wife.
Yeah.
Like you saw her, like Lori viewed her as like, oh, this one is she's taking my place.
Right.
And I resent her for it, you know, and it's like, it's definitely, those calls, man, just like were like gut punches, like listening. Like, oh man, those are like the realest things you could ever get. And like, it's a jail call. You know, so Lori's not going to say shit. She's too smart for that, you know. But like, the one thing that's interesting in LDS, like it's verboten. Like, so when Colby is asking her to swear that you did it in the name of Jesus, she wouldn't do it. Was telling. Like, he asked her 3 times. He's like, "Tell me you did it in the name of Jesus," and that's like for like Jews, like they don't write the word God out. They'll put like an underscore instead of the O. Like, so there's certain religions, there's certain like phrases that have a lot of weight, and that in LDS has massive weight. And when she wouldn't do it, you know, like whether it was gamesmanship on her part, I mean, because again, she knows it's a jail call. She knows it's being recorded.
Right.
She's not going to make any kind of things that could be construed as a confession in those calls, you know. And Brandon Colby just had to have it out. Like he had to say what, like, he didn't give a shit if it was recorded. He needed to be able to say what he needed to say to her, and you know, he let her have it. And man, it was something. Man, that was crushing.
I cried when we were streaming that one and the calls came. I cried when
so
they
hard.
did Colby's. Yeah.
Man.
Back to Letitia. We kind of go back and forth with our moments. We were talking earlier about how Al is just over her shit and over all of the lies. And when he kind of finally got to that point where he's past the point where the FBI, they know now she ain't giving us nothing. We're not getting any information from her. So he's not having to necessarily, you know, feed into it and pretend anymore. And he starts calling her out on a liar. That was one of our WTF moments, some of his stuff. And there were so many tweets about this because I think we were all finally getting to hear him just tell her she's full of shit. And it was amazing.
Well, totally. Like,
all right, here we go.
It's one of my favorite moments of the show.
Yeah.
Me back when you got the truth. You're fucking lying.
Boom! Finally, like, that's me. Like every phone call the whole time.
The whole time.
I'm done. Go ahead.
So
It's still all about her.
I can't.
Totally.
For a minute, I need you to just breathe because you're yelling at me, and I can't even answer question when you're screaming. And every time I go to open my mouth, you're screaming and yelling at me.
Every time there's a lie, I'm going to call you out. So let's go. Let's see.
Bam.
There's nothing further to be a lie.
Okay, I'm just going to warn you. I'm firing a warning shot right now. You lie, I'm going to tell you you're lying. Go ahead.
Look, I haven't even said that. You're still burning your yap.
All right.
You're still burning your yap.
All right, I'm shutting my yap. Go ahead.
Still burning your yap.
You tell me whenever you want me to stop.
Oh my god, dude!
It was blood.
Movie and like
And
nauseous, like she makes me nauseous when I hear her voice. It's weird.
It's awful. It's like that screeching, and then it just never stops. It, and she just goes on and on and on. And oh my gosh, when he finally was just like, ugh, and then he said, "I'm firing a warning shot. I'm calling you out on every lie." I was like, yeah.
Yes, I mean, I'm serious. That's like me. Every phone call with her. That would have literally been me, like every second that I'm talking to her. You're like, "Are you fucking kidding me? You fucking lying piece of shit!" You know, I would have been like out of my mind. Like,
Yes.
I don't know how he kept it like under control that long. I mean, and it's impressive.
It was
Really.
so impressive. Yeah. And that inspired a bunch of Jams, one of our favorite here, she turned some of those moments into like she made them into like inspirational memes, which was hilarious. I retweeted some of them, but
I saw those. Jams is a super solid tweeter. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So I love the fact that they look like you know, inspirational memes, but it's all, you know,
her horrible words.
There was some, aren't there more from that one? Oh, change it again, because that's a lie. Yep.
Let's see.
You're lying. That's going to be noted. I'm writing down notes right now.
Oh, man.
See, this was all the stuff that like, every T-tail. That one was hilarious. Instead of like the details, it's all of her T-tails because Tisha is lying about everything. It's like Tisha.
Yeah, that one's really quick. That's a good one.
Can't spin me, but go ahead. I'll listen to you spin. Go ahead and spin it around. Oh gosh, her spinning around just drives me freaking nuts. Oh, call Maury Povich. He'll help. Oh gosh, it gave me life. Oh, don't play me, homie. That was one of my favorites too when he called her homie.
Wow.
God, I think everybody in the true crime and, you know, justice junkie community was listening to this going, yes, finally.
100%. Like, I know I was. Like, I was like, oh my God, finally.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, because like I saw somebody in the comments, I think it may have been, let's see who it was. It was Pantuflay. Exactly. Like, I mean, he had to remain but like the first call, like before he's even got law enforcement like sitting on the phone with him, but he knows something's up.
Mm-hmm.
He's still cool in the gang, you know, but he knows her. Yeah. You know what I mean? He knows her. He knows she's a massive narcissist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but he is trying to get that, and he must know that like going attack mode on her is only going to make her more defensive. Like you're not going to be able to get anything out of her going hard at her. But man, still, it takes a lot of self-control. Like if you think something horrible's happened to your kid, to be able to do that, it's super impressive.
Yeah. Ugh.
Well, you want to introduce this one?
Oh yeah, I'll introduce it. Okay, so next one is Detective Daddy. So we so on our live stream the other night, we pull up like graphics and pictures and stuff of whoever's on the stand so that it kind of helps give an idea of who's talking rather than just watching, you know, the little audio thing move. So Detective Ariel Werther was the one who came up, and we all thought he was pretty cute. And then we heard his voice, and we all were like fanning ourselves and stuff. Somebody in the chat called him Detective Daddy, and we all developed a huge crush on him. He is the only one out of everybody, because we listened to the stream in like 1.25 or 1.5, depending on the witness, so we can, you know, get through it. He's the only one that we listened to in real time, and he's the only one that not one of us can tell you anything he said. Not one thing.
No idea.
No clue. He could have had the most important part of the whole thing. I could not tell you one thing he said, but I can tell you what his voice sounded like.
Mhm.
All right, we'll play a
We
little.
have
bit
a
of
little
this.
clip from our chat.
We do. Well, I got some images, but I also cut some stuff together here.
Oh, great. I haven't seen this yet.
I think we found everybody's crush.
Oh.
Madam Prosecutor, before we proceed again, I'll just note we had a brief sidebar regarding the previous ruling the courts made in this case.
Objection, relevance.
I want to just reiterate, since it was some time before I
I was objecting to knowing if he was married or not.
advised that certain evidence
Relevance.
for a limited purpose,
I'm going to
this
swipe
evidence may
guilty
be
or not
admissible
guilty.
for a purpose such as proving a motive, opportunity, preparation, plan, knowledge.
Handed.
You're crazy. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? Know what I mean?
Everybody wanted a sidebar with him.
Like that.
I've reviewed it.
Do you recognize the images shown on those papers?
I do.
And did you in fact create those through a PowerPoint presentation?
I did.
Did you create those based on information that you had obtained?
Yes, I did.
Do you believe that those slides would be effective in assisting you today with your testimony?
I do.
I'm sorry.
Your Honor, I would ask
gotta
for
hear
the
this
admission of
normal
State's
speed.
Exhibit 43.
1 second.
Yeah, I'm
Any
curious.
objection?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Very well. Considered that, and based on the court's previous ruling, the objections overruled and that exhibit is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Werther, were you working on July 11th of 2019?
I was.
Do you recall responding out to the report of a shooting?
I do.
I
When
do
you
too.
responded out, were you given any specific assignment initially?
I had no specific assignment for context at the time. So at times on calls, and this was one of them, I would respond out to essentially shadow and
I
assist
think
with
they
minor
all
tasks,
have,
but I was
all
not
right.
given primary because I was not on the team.
That voice.
You were there on scene on July 11th.
I was.
And then the following day, did you have a conversation with another detective?
I did.
And who was that?
Detective Moffat.
At that time, based on your conversation, were you assigned a specific task?
I was.
I would call 911 every night.
Was to call Ms. Vallow, as no one had, as I understood it, obtained documentation information from Joshua Jackson Vallow. As he wasn't present at the scene during the initial investigation, it seemed no one had gathered his name, date of birth, or any of that information.
Did you in fact do that?
I did.
And when you made contact with Ms. Vallow, did she provide any information to you?
I was
Yeah.
glad that this one was
during
in the
our
evening.
call, she provided
because-
basic information to be put in the report, which is fairly standard.
Well, you know, it's one of those ones, man. It comes a time where you're just like, I need some levity, and
Right.
that happened to hit right at the right spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, that whole thing. And like, so that is when, that's after, is that after she's gone to the Burger King? Like, you know, so like Chandler, like, because we're actually doing the thing down there where this episode where we have the Vallow murder, which we now know was a murder, which Alex Cox was saying was, you know, self-defense, and that they don't call it in. Alex doesn't call it in for 45 minutes, and that Lori takes both JJ and Ty Lee to Burger King right after. Like, so Charles is laying dead on the floor.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, we got to take JJ to school, and then they
Yeah.
go through the Burger King drive-through. So
Get
like
chicken
that-
fries.
yeah, and that's right, and that's what gives us the like how we know from her interview, which I think was like that interview, like when she like was at after the shooting had taken place, because he calls it in at like 8:36 a.m. and she's at the Burger King at 7:54. So we know that they wait all this time, and then you know you've got that wound on the back of Alex Cox's head where he claims that he got hit in the head with a bat. Now, I don't know if you've seen Charles Vallow, but he's
and he's a former baseball player too.
he's a pretty stout guy. Like he's
Yeah.
caving skulls in. Like if
Yeah.
he's somebody in the back of a head with a bat, it's skull caving time. It's not like superficial wound. Like, so I don't know. Like that whole thing is, yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Well, I couldn't even tell you what anything he said was. So I
Like,
just
it's so hot. Like it was a hot factor thing.
he's just I mean, he was cute, but like his voice, I have a thing for deep voices, and I
Somebody
just
said he sounds like Brad Garrett, like from Ray Romano's brother on.
Yeah.
I think it's accurate. He does. He's got like that real deep, throaty voice.
Well, and
Yeah.
the judge sounds like Raymond.
yes,
Yeah, he does.
he does. We had on one of the streams, we had a picture of Ray with
Oh, don't
robe
tempt me.
on.
I'll bring it up. Here it is.
Oh, there we go. There's our judge.
Perfect. It's perfect. Like
It's our
somebody
judge
said,
in his robe.
the judge's robe.
I think out of all of that situation, I think my favorite was the process that Dean went through, which is like I feel fully emasculated right now, and then he went into, well, let's see, where's the next one that he had? I'm pumping iron right now, just because. And then he said, "Does Viagra come in 12 packs?"
Oh man. I mean, probably. Not that I would know. From a friend. A friend told me that. About the whole Viagra thing.
Oh man. But Detective Daddy was something we all needed at the time.
It was so fun. It was so fun.
All right.
All right. So our next WTF moment, it's hot in here now, was the fake kid. So Letitia is on the phone with Al, going through her nonsense again, and he's asking her questions, and she needs time to come up with more lies. So she fakes a whole kid in the back of her car. She says that there's somebody's daughter and that she can't talk because first she said there's kids and then it was just one kid. And she's like, oh, what'd you do with mine? Oh, yep. Oh, okay. But there's literally nobody else talking. There's no doors that are opening or shutting. There's no sound. It's literally just her buying time trying to figure out what her next lie was going to be.
Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit lengthier, so you just let me know if you want me to keep going through it or not. But
I mean,
oh,
I
this
think it's gonna
be
like
joyous.
depend on how long we could like tolerate listening to it.
That's true. It's very true. That's
It's
what that
true.
comes down to.
You got to take it in small doses.
All right, here we go.
They're following somebody that they look. Okay. When we came back, I told you 15,000 times.
Told you.
No one tells anything 15
The
times.
reason I left the car,
And it was
the
a
phone at
different
Petco,
thing
you
every
wanna know
time.
why?
Every single
I
time.
was gonna pick the alarm on it. I set an alarm for it to go off. If I hadn't came back
It's another BS story.
In the
I set an
time
alarm
frame.
to come off if I didn't come back.
to call the police,
Because that makes sense.
I set the alarm on there, Albert. There was no intention. I had my watch on, so there was no hiding where I was going or whatever.
But wait. So you set an alarm to call the police? Why?
No, not because someone was following us
From the house or from Petco?
from the house
Okay.
to Petco.
Okay.
I love how she like
So I was gonna
repeats it to him as if he's stupid for not understanding.
Anna was laying down. He was playing the switch, so I knew that they knew nobody was in the car. That's what they thought. Maybe I was being over suspicious.
Well, so help me out here because I'm in believe teacher mode. So okay, just so you know that. But somebody's following you from the house, and you leave Gannon in the truck.
They never knew anybody was in the truck.
But if they followed you from the house, didn't they see y'all get into the truck?
I was not like from the house as in our house, like as in not the area that.
All right. Well, okay. All right. Help me be in believe teacher mode. Okay. All right. Don't start spinning.
Believe Tisha mode.
Spinning.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to.
You go through the whole entire thing.
Okay. I'll go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So I sit there. I was playing with these period pad things because apparently dogs have periods. Okay. So I'm holding the thing, and I sat there and I said, "Alarm!" Just for the alarm to go off.
All right, listen, I'm done with this.
Yeah, that's enough of her.
Sorry, I was blocking it out. Okay. She's like one of the few voices in the world that I can actually block out. Like most, like, I hear everything, but like her shit's like white noise for me. I'm like,
Oh, it's awful.
oh, it's the worst.
And nothing she says
never
makes
been
sense.
defended more than her. Like, and I'm a defense attorney. Like, I've defended some awful people, and like
Yeah.
that woman is like, as much as I hated Alec Murdoch for being just a giant piece of shit, Like she's like a next level piece of shit, you know?
Yeah.
She like something about her is just, it's probably that like both Murdoch and her are both complete narcissists, but her thing is like, she's just evil. Like, she's got a whole evil thing going that is like, she's so hard to stomach, man. Like she's the worst.
Could you imagine being married to her?
Like dude, like Al's like a reasonably good looking guy. Like, how does he end up with that piece of shit? Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's like her, I don't know. Like, it's probably because we know what we know about her, so I always look at her through that veil. Yeah. You know, just like even like I don't know. She's hard to stomach, man. I don't know.
The Believe Tisha mode thing was hilarious, though. That was.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So Zulema. So when we had Zulema's testimony,
speaking of
we listened to it sped up so that we could get through it. And when you listen to it sped up, it like puts a hardcore focus on how many times she says and that entire testimony was between her and the
Blake
prosecutor,
Blake, right?
over and over.
So for your listening pleasure,
did you do like an auto-tune song of her ums? I'm waiting for something to feel like an auto-tune. Like, are those still?
I haven't done the auto-tune yet, but it's absolutely coming.
It's got to. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Excuse me. Over and over and over and over and over.
I mean, we could do that. We could literally play like 4 hours of ums. Like,
I downloaded the whole day, but the reality is I only needed about 5 minutes of audio to get that many ums.
Dude,
yes. I mean, could you imagine if we actually did the ums from the entire day? With that being 5 minutes. Oh,
but that's thousands of ums.
Yeah. I wish we had an counter. I'm sure somebody on like Reddit or somebody
created the drinking game and people are getting shit faced.
Or they're dead. Even in my heyday, I don't know.
Oh gosh, it was awful.
Man, she's like that, and that whole testimony is just crazy world, you know.
Oh yeah, completely nuts.
Sando, that's my sweet guy, my dog.
Aw.
He's the best.
We like dogs here. In fact, when things get really heavy, we will actually do a slideshow of people's dogs while we're listening to the testimony.
Man,
we do it. Yeah, we do a pet parade.
All that ails us, our dogs, man. You know, they're the best. I love them. Anybody who doesn't love dogs, I don't know, got an issue. Sorry.
That's where he draws the line on defending. That's it.
Can't defend somebody who doesn't like dogs.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta let this guy out of the room.
So we have the flipping the bird pictures and stuff too, right?
Oh,
so
yes.
So this was one of the things that was like kind of made a lot of Twitter go nuts with Letitia flipping the bird. And it wasn't just once. Like, I mean, I know that like during the Murdaugh trial, there was, you know, whether or not Buster was flipping off, you know, Mark Tinsley and stuff like that. But this wasn't just like a one-time thing. This was over and over and over and over. And she was doing it. And so everybody on Twitter picked up on that. And that was one of our moments.
Oh yeah, so there's one photo here. I'm trying to find. Here's the other photo we had. And now I'm trying to find a clip from a movie that I used to know pretty well. And this is exactly what this all reminded me of here. I should have thought to do this earlier, but I did not. Let's see. Here we go. All right. If you've ever seen Mr. Bean, you'll know exactly what this is. before I get taken off.
Oh yeah, for copyright infringement.
Right? Yeah. I thought about that after I did it.
Yeah, that was good and short though. Like I think you're good. I don't know what the law is on that, but like YouTube, it takes them a hot minute before they catch you.
But they will catch you. They
They
don't.
will catch you definitively. So, they always
Okay,
do.
so I hate to go back to Tisha's awful voice, but
Oh,
we cannot not have the cash baby on our
Oh, man.
what the F moments. This was, I think, I was watching this on Recovery Addict Stream, and I think he said this was the only time in all of her calls that he didn't want the call to end because it was so entertaining with the Mexican cartel cash baby with the cash and the pregnancy bump. Whatever. She's an idiot. I think we have.
I need to. Find
I think we have the clip of that one, don't we?
Part in the video. Yeah, I think I cut too. I think I made it. I think I cut too much, so we'll just play around here and see.
Following somebody that they love. Okay. When we came back, I told you 15,000 times.
Told
Yeah,
you
we did that.
15,000 times.
We did that.
1,000 times.
Let's
A
see.
lot of times.
It's so quiet.
I don't know how else to help other than to know we were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Okay, you talking about Petco?
Yes, because Petco, I just was supposed to walk in Petco, look around, be normal,
She was forced to go in Petco.
drop this lady off somewhere.
Oh, so she told you to walk into Petco?
Yes,
Oh, okay. Of
she forced me.
course, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Did she have a weapon, like a gun or a knife or something that threaten you, or what?
How do you think someone would force you? You're sensitive.
No, you're a tough girl, so I'm just gonna take a lot. That's what I'm trying to say.
He's so good.
Yeah. I don't think you'd be scared easy by somebody like that. So that's just what I'm saying. You probably start swinging unless she had a gun or a knife or something.
This is a joke to you.
No, I'm serious. I'm trying to.
I think I skipped it, but the point is, is that it was a cash belly.
The lady gets in her car and she was like 8 months pregnant, but then she wasn't really pregnant. Do you know what she had in her belly? Cash. Do you know what that means? He's like, she robbed a bank. And then it turns into that she was going to have to take papers to the Mexican restaurant. Well, it turns out that was something that was going on in Colorado Springs at the time, that there was something from the cartel that was related to taking papers to Mexican restaurants. So she's literally just pulling news articles and most wanted people in Colorado Springs and trying to attach, all of this stuff to that. She's an idiot.
She is such an idiot.
Cash baby.
It's like
Oh.
unbelievable. It's like,
Cash baby.
did they pull her Google searches from like when she's talking to Al? Like, have they done that? Like, I haven't seen that part
Oh,
of
I
it
don't know.
because she's looking shit up like during these
Yeah.
conversations or prior conversations.
They
Yeah.
did.
She is.
They showed the interrogation video, the 5-hour one that hasn't been over yet, which actually the guy who interrogated her, amazing. Did
Oh, he was so
amazing. His
good.
patience was amazing.
Yeah.
But they started hitting her with the fact that they pulled her searches, and she was doing the whole like, "That's not mine. It wasn't
Right.
me."
Right.
Oh, the
Yeah,
next one was that was just because of this. Oh, but that next one, no, that wasn't me.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like the best thing about that Fed interview is like they had her dead to rights. I mean, they hadn't
Yeah.
found Pittman yet, but they had her.
Yeah.
There was no question, and just like letting her, because it's like the prosecution at that point, the feds and whatever the joint task force that was working on it in terms of whatever department it was, they've got the prosecutor saying, "Look, this is what we need," because like. He addressed it in that call, that Fed, that like they were aware of her potentially coming at them with that insanity defense thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like the prosecutor's like, look, man, you got to get her just sounding sane as hell. Like just keep her going with these lies. Just keep feeding it and feeding it and let her just keep spewing them. you know, like obviously the prosecutor didn't know like how horrific of a job that was, like having to listen to that woman talk. Like that was torturous. Like that guy should have gotten paid time and a half, maybe double, you know,
Or
for-
like
just by way of having to listen to her voice for
at
extended.
least in Hot Pockets. Pay him in Hot Pockets.
Hey, give him an extra hot pocket.
There's nothing
Yeah.
Tisha likes better than a Hot Pocket.
Oh,
Brooklyn,
jeez.
for real. Yes, exactly. Just listening to her is domestic violence. Exactly. That is spot on. That is
Oh, you all are
nailed
awesome.
it.
Oh gosh, yeah, she's awful. Oh, she's awful.
Aubrey, I got the I thank you. I got the jury instructions, proposed jury instructions. I'm gonna peep them while we're chatting. I'll give you what how I think that it works out there. So I want to see that.
So,
Different.
we talked a little bit earlier about one of the things that has been a huge joke with us on Twitter and with our chat this past week has been the portals and the zombies, and
Closet portal.
especially
Portal. It's just so weird.
especially the portals. And we I don't even know how we got to talking about dirty portals and needing to clean your portals, and that she's probably not cleaning her portal as much now that she's locked up. I don't know how we got into all this. It went awry, but that was one of our moments. So Bob, you know all about this case. Do you want to explain what the portals and the zombies are?
Yeah, so the portals are basically, and only Chad and Lori have these portals, allegedly.
Of course.
Portals where they're able to communicate from different locations, and Lori's is in her closet, and Chad's is somewhere in his house. I forget where the hell it is.
On his
Was
bed.
that what Eminem was talking about? I think that's what Eminem was talking about, cleaning out his closet.
I mean, the guy like Eminem he's got the shine. You can see into the future. He was predicting all this shit. So so like that is their way to be able to communicate without being in the same room. Like whenever she says I got to go to my portal because I got to go talk to Chad. Like they don't have to get on the phone. They just can go to the portal, and they're metaphysically together. And so like the concept of the zombies is like when Alice and I were talking about this, I'm like, this is like at the height of The Walking Dead, right?
Yeah.
These two assholes were like laying in bed, watching The Walking Dead, watching Rick like run around and just shoot zombies, and like, so they like, when they come up with this concept, what the real thing for them is that once they've gone to the dark, once they're considered to be on the dark side of the scale, that they've been inhibited by a demon, and that when that happens, that every part of what was formerly that person has left their body. Like all that is left is the outer shell, and that the entirety, the soul, the mind, the brain, everything is a demon, which they refer to as a zombie. That person, as we knew them, is dead, hence the zombie thing. But they're still walking around. They're still operating like like they can still walk, they can still talk. So they're not like the zombies in The Walking Dead because they can still function. Like Charles was a zombie, but obviously he could talk, perfectly well.
Right.
Probably because he was a zombie. But but that's the concept. The concept is that once the demons inhabit the body, that everything that made them a human being is now gone, and gone permanently. Because when they do the castings, because like Allison and I were like, all right, what is the point of the casting? Because
Right.
And Melanie Gibb, when she testified, she talked about that they were doing the castings, and they're kind of going, as it came. They didn't know what was going to happen. So if they got rid of Ned Flanders, and Ned went away, then the next demon came in. So it was like there was never a way for a demon to be cast out and for that person to ever come back to being a normal person who they were in their minds. Right. Mm-hmm. So the end game was all like they were expecting that when they casted the demon, that the body would just fall dead, limp, because that's all it was a shell. So like that's their concept of the demon thing, man. And like
That's a little Heaven's Gate, isn't it?
dude, it's a lot of a bunch of shit.
They just
Like,
pulled it all. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
enough to confuse you.
They just
it
watch
is.
sci-fi shit and then just put it all together, and that's their new religion.
Like they're just cramming it in. I mean, because like Lori's thing is that, like she has been like since she was 8 years old. Like if you guys watched like the sins that like I refreshed my recollection and watched that over the weekend, the sins of the mother. And, you know, it's like her mom was giving the interview and she was like, man, you know, Lori was into the scripture as early as like 8 years old, you know, and it's like, and then they're interviewing her buddies from like her friend, her blonde friend, I forget what her name is, in Hawaii. And she's like, you know, the one running theme about Lori is that she had a huge ego and that she always wanted to be in the limelight. And that one friend was like, Lori had a tendency to over spiritualize everything. Like when she made it on the Wheel of Fortune, she was like, well, I made it on the Wheel of Fortune because God wanted me on Wheel of Fortune. I just need y'all to understand that's why I was on there. So she's been doing this shit forever. She's been claiming she's had the pipeline, either with the visitation straight up with Jesus or the angels talking to her. You know, it's like, because that's like when you were Brandi, you asked me early on why I had her as kind of like, because when you look and listen to Chad, the guy's a moron. Like, literally, like, you know, and he was a sexton, and sexton in LDS is like literally a caretaker of the cemetery, of the LDS cemetery.
Yeah.
He's a grave digger.
Yeah.
And that's like when I hear him speak. And I pulled up some of his books just so I could have like a knowledge base of like, did this guy have a brain in his head? And like he had dropped out of college because like he had the accident when he allegedly, you know, like that, like he had a near death experience. He had two of them.
Yeah.
Which is when he allegedly started getting spoken to by
the cliff diving and then the wave.
Right,
And
exactly. So that's when the man upstairs starts like having the direct communication with Chad. And he's like, hey, just want to let you know, your wife is a 4.3 on the darkness scale. That's straight up on high. So mark that down in your little book there. You know, it's like that happening with him. And it's like she was looking for that guy. That's what I was saying. She was looking for a Chad, a guy like Chad who had that following. And he did. Like he didn't have a huge following, but he was enough in that community to be somebody that they brought in as a speaker. He had the books. He had people that were drinking that Kool-Aid, reading the books. So like she saw him as the perfect front man, you know, because like behind the scenes, like Lori's smart as hell. Like Lori, like she is like, look, I mean, we all know women are smarter than men, and any man in here that doesn't know that's true or is not going to admit that's true, you're a lying piece of shit. That's facts. You know, you guys think about things in a different way. You're more in touch with the things that matter in humanity. So like and Lori was a master of all of that. She could just get a dude in a room. Like she ran through 4 guys and really like, and Charles was a 14-year marriage, you know? So, I mean, that one stuck, but like when I got the context of why that happened is that early on when she's going through that 4-year custody battle with Joe, her third husband, Tylee's dad, like she's already with Charles before that divorce is even finalized in 2006, because I'm reading all these emails where Charles steps in. Like, so she's got him sucked in immediately, where we know she's already saying the shit like she's got the pipeline to God and you know, like she's
well, and even in her interviews and stuff, like her interrogations and like when they bring her in, you can see her running circles around those guys too. Like she's, you know, she's laughing and, you know, she's like, they leave out of there. And I think one of them even ended up saying something to her about how they were going to, you know, what she can do to make this go away, because she obviously wasn't crazy. And, you know, she's very convincing. And that's one thing too. That's a word that everybody has used about her, is that she's convincing.
Right. Well, she is the female version of Murdoch. Like that, like that was his superpower. His superpower is be able to puke out a bunch of shit and everybody believed him because
Yeah.
you know he had that homespun shit going on. Everybody's like, oh, you know, and it's like hers is different, but she's just as effective at it.
Yeah.
And you know, and her thing with like that whole thing that goes down when the Joe Ryan and then she gets Charles to start. Charles steps in and starts emailing. Oh, thanks, Lisa. Like he starts emailing at the behest of Lori. He's like, you know, man, like I tried to come at you like a man, and you know, I'm just letting you know the shit that you're pulling right now, because you know what happens. Like I've had these clients where, you know, she has told Charles Vallow at the beginning of that relationship that this piece of shit molested both my kids. So that is what Charles Vallow's mentality is. True or not, for all he cared about is that the woman that he was in love with at that moment was saying that it was true. So in Charles Vallow's mind, it was 100% true.
Right.
You know, so like he jumps in immediately. Like, so that battle starts going on with the two of these guys. Like, because when that whole thing went down, I was like I immediately had to relook at like when Joe died, you know, because I'm convinced that like she killed them all. You know, that somehow she figured out a way for Alex to get that, like, you know, the blood clot in his lung, and then like a drug that they could have given him, because he was a liability for them. I don't know what you all think out there, but my theory is that Alex 100%, aside from Tammy, because like I don't think that they were able to ping him there. I don't think they were able to ping Alex at that location at his house. Like they pinged him there for the BB or the paintball gun. Like when Tammy said that somebody tried to shoot at her and she thought it was a paintball gun.
Mm-hmm.
They pinged Alex at the house that night. So he was there for that.
Right.
You know, I'm like, man, you know, they couldn't ping him there, but that doesn't mean he didn't leave his phone, and that, you know, Chad just didn't open the door, and that Alex didn't creep upstairs and put a pillow over her face. You know, because they had that one obviously in the beginning is national causes, and it wasn't until this shit goes down, they exhume her body, and they decide, well, no, she was murdered. You know, so
well, see, even with Joe, because I said on the stream the other night, there is nothing that any soul on this earth can say to make me believe that Alex was not some kind of tampered with. But even with Joe, you know, they said they found women's sunglasses in his bathroom or something, and so I was like, oh, she was there. So, something happened, you know. So I don't know. I think it's just too coincidental.
Me too. I really do. And you know, the game plan for those two was to kill everybody. Like if you look at this chart that I ended up getting my hands on, the way they kind of had it laid out is that for every dark person that, you know, on the chart, there was an equal amount of people that were light, you know, at different levels on their weirdness chart of light and darkness. Right. But that ultimately what they were going to start killing everybody that they construed as being dark, and to fall into the category of dark in their eyes and their estimation meant that you were not a believer in what they believed, that shit's going down. End of days is here. You need to be out there, because it's like the way she sucked Melanie, Brandon's wife, and her niece in was insane. Like, because Melanie was all in, and like Brandon, like he was another devastating. Like everybody, like if he would have been streaming and everybody was looking at Brandon, like all the women would have fallen in love with Brandon. Because like, he's just a sweet guy. Like had you know, like was married to her, and like that whole thing. Like she wasn't even religious. He was the religious one when they first got married.
Right.
He'd have to.
And she was reluctant to it. Yeah.
Exactly. And then when Lori got her hooks into her, boop, it was like done. You know. And he's like, he said it was more of like a mother-daughter relationship than it was an aunt and niece relationship. So yeah, I like everything about her. I'm with you, like completely, Brandi. I think that like somehow I think that she killed them all, because that's what I'm saying. Like the killing just started at the inner circle.
Right.
You know, it started with the people closest to them. And like the reason that I landed on the fact that I think that Lori was really the puppet master as opposed to Chad is look at who benefited from the deaths in the eyes of, from those two.
Yeah.
Right.
From the eyes of, yeah, you can make the argument that Chad didn't want the kids and they would be an impediment, but for Lori, they were a massive impediment. And you can throw Tammy as an absolute impediment to Lori being able to marry Chad.
Yeah.
So if you look at the kids, you look at Charles, and you look at Tammy, the people that ended up dead were the ones that Lori wanted dead. And she just but where this case gets so interesting, and we're gonna rehash a lot of this tomorrow night, and I don't care because I can talk about this case for 10 hours. But it's like and what we just found out is that there is not going to be, and I don't know if I already mentioned it already because I talk so much, but if there is a defense available there, which we know that it is, that the defense isn't going to use it. That's why I was saying I don't think they're going to put anybody on. I think they're going to rest.
Yeah.
It'll be like, I don't know if you guys mess with that, like the Latham trial. Like everybody, like after that thing was done, it's like people are always shocked when the defense rests. But like, as everyone knows, as you guys are 13th jurors and you watch this shit, it's all the state's burden. So if like as a defense counsel, if I think that they haven't met their burden, I'm like, well, their case in chief sucked. So I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna fuck it up. I'm not gonna mess it up by putting anybody on, because all that can do is hurt me by allowing them to score points during my case in chief when I don't think that they met their burden on theirs. It's a calculated risk and it's scary.
Right.
Yeah. As a defense attorney, it's like, it's really scary to do that. Aside from like not wanting to ever put my defendants on because like inevitably they're going to screw something up, guilty or innocent, like the way that they can be manipulated on the stand in terms of how the skilled the prosecutor is in terms of asking questions. Like one word comes out the wrong way and one juror's like, I saw it in his eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's all it takes. And
now, as much as she's so convincing, do you think that she would take the stand in her own defense?
No way. Like it's like, I want to say yes because she's got that same narcissistic ego that
like Murdaugh, yeah,
right. But there's nothing that she can say that's going to help her. Like her trying to explain, like her taking the stand would be, okay, why didn't you tell anybody where the kids were for months afterwards? She's going to have no way to answer the question other than giving her religious answers. That look. Like her answer to this, and like I was saying before, if I'm defending the case, if I'm arguing at closings, I'm saying, okay, I know the state wants you to attribute the fact that she went months denying that the kids were missing, making up lies, completely covering up the fact when we know she knew that they were missing. We know that she knew that they were dead. And the defense to that is like, and I found this quote from her. It was like, it like gave me like goosebumps. It was so like prophetic. And she's like, sometimes you have to hide in the cavity of a rock in order to avoid darkness. And that is what she thought she was doing in terms of not like, because remember in their minds and to buy this theory, you have to believe that her and Chad really believe end of days is coming. And I honestly do think that like their sick asses think that. Like, they believe that. Like 100. Yeah. Like, I don't believe the state is correct that she made all this shit up just to kill the kids for the SSI money. I just don't. And like we know from her emails that she did not know about Charles' benefits from the life insurance policy until after that it got changed, until after he's dead.
Yes.
So you know what I'm saying? So it's like, even though Melanie got on the stand and said that her before, that she knew about it before.
I said that during the stream. I was like, she's wrong on that because of the.
Like, we have the proof of it because of the conversation that she has with Chad, where she's like, I got screwed. I didn't get the money.
Right.
After Charles is dead, because if you try to and I could see why Melanie would make that lie up. Like Melanie wanted to roast her. Like her entire intent on the stand was to get that bitch down. Like she's like, this woman threw shade on me, put my family at risk. Because Melanie wasn't, at least at the end, she wasn't all in. I think she withdrew. Like I think Melanie was culpable initially. I really
Yeah.
do. I
Yeah.
think she had some culpability to her. And I
Yeah.
think that when she did what she did, even though after she lied initially to the cops about JJ being with her, and then she's like, oh my God, like I've got to write this
I think
shit.
it hit her
Exactly.
after that.
Exactly. Like in short order. Like, and that's
Mhm.
when she makes the recorded phone call. And at that point, she's like, by the time this thing gets to trial, she's like, man, I'm taking her down. And she thinks in her mind that by saying that Lori knew that the beneficiary was going to be changed, but maybe hadn't happened yet, that facilitated the killing of Charles. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because like that's the only way it makes sense in Melanie's mind that Charles is thinking about doing it. Maybe it hasn't gone through yet, and she's got to hurry up and kill him before the beneficiary changes. Now, in Illinois, if you're married, you cannot change beneficiary while you're still married. You can only do it after the divorce is finalized. And if you owe maintenance and or child support, you still have to maintain the life insurance policy. So I don't know what the law is there, but like it must have been a situation where he was able to change it because he did, you know? So like that whole thing, how that played out, like I just like the money thing with the SSI. So that leaves us basically with the SSI from both kids coming into her as the money. Like, is that the kind of money that like somebody's going to kill her own kids for? I don't know. Maybe. But to me, it leans more towards the fact that she just was buying what they believed, that it was true, that she actually, I honestly believe she's sitting in that courtroom thinking none of this shit matters. I don't care. Like you can see it in her face.
Oh, she smiles like a prom queen, like looking at the cameras and stuff. And which, you know,
she's smiling like she knows some shit like we don't. And that's what she thinks. She's like, y'all don't know. It's like you should because you're hearing about it, but you still don't believe it. And you're all idiots. So I don't know what, like she's looking at us like we're the fools.
Yeah.
And we're looking at her like she's fucking insane. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, tomorrow will be fun. Like we'll really be able to dig in this stuff, and it's like it's an unbelievable trial. It's already my favorite trial of all time, and I can't watch it, but I love podcasts. I'm a podcaster, so like I'm like I like listening to things. Like I can really. Because like sometimes I get unfocused when I'm viewing. Like for me, I'm an auditory guy, so I could realize for some people it's like a bit much. Like I'm like, so what I told Allie, I'm like my wife, I'm like, well, we're gonna do this, let's do it. So like, because it's a lot. If you have going to work, and you like, who wants to go listen to 5 hours of testimony just because you're interested in the case? It's like
we do.
We're a different breed, It's
most people don't. Most people don't.
Right, most people don't, and it's a lot. It's like so it's like to be able to like kind of sift through it and pick out like the most important stuff. I think is cool, and like I'm like you guys. I love it. I love every second of it. So it's just so fascinating to me. So it's like how it's going to play out in terms of like by the law. They haven't met their burden yet. Like, and look, ultimately, I think she's going down for the reasons I said at the beginning of the stream, which are they're never going to be able to get the image that is burned in the jury's minds with how the kids were tortured and buried. And they're never going to be able to forget the fact, even though, because like, think of it as a demarcation line in the sand in terms of when the murders occur and then all the shit she did afterwards. That doesn't matter, like to prove the case. Right. You understand? I mean, it matters in the sense that the juries are going to be like, no mom would do that unless she committed the murders and was trying to hide from it. But the reality is like that cavity of a rock thing. They were trying to wait out the apocalypse. That's like in their minds. They weren't trying to avoid being arrested per se, even though they were. What they were really trying to do is just look. We could just like keep pawning this shit off because it's coming. And then there's only going to be us left. So like, you know what I mean? Like in their minds, that's what they're thinking. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Hey, Bob, do you think Melanie got a deal? Would we know if she turned state's witness?
No, but you know who got limited use was
Zulema.
Zulema. She got limited use immunity.
Yeah.
So like, because we were digging, because I'm like, Melanie did not get it. At least that we found. I didn't see, and we searched pretty diligently. We didn't find any kind of immunity. And she would have had to have admitted it. Like they could have asked her that. Like if she had some immunity on the stand, like anytime you make a deal like that, they can,
they'll ask about it.
Out, because it shows bias to a certain extent.
Do you want to do one of the last ones, Brandi?
We got one last clip. And this one is the Monster Energy drink heard around the world.
This clip, I'll say this right now. This clip is not as clean as RA's clip that we all have seen, but it's the best one that I got. Here we go. It's also quiet.
This is Letitia when she had been picked up in South Carolina, and she's on the van ride back, and she's trying to slip. She's slipping out of her handcuffs, and she takes her Monster Energy drink, and she whacks. Is it Detective Bethel?
1 second. Yes, I think so. Here. Boom.
Bam. And then she handles it like a complete child, because then they're saying something to her and she's like, well, she shouldn't have been starting with me.
She's the worst.
She's so bad.
It's quite literally just like my children. He hit me first.
Oh, it's so
what is that amazing room that I keep seeing after every clip? Like, is that like the what is that?
Is my that's just my background.
Is that like a spot that you like actually work in? Because I want to
know
with you.
I wish I did. I wish I did.
Best like podcast studio in the history of podcast studios.
I would love for that, but you can see that I still haven't got my green screen figured out yet. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, so like my buddy made that lamp in the background, and I was
That's
on
a cool lamp.
like Court TV the other day, and like somebody tweeted me. They're like, "Hey, where'd you get that lamp?" And I text my buddy who lives in Arizona. I'm like, "Yo, man, you should get back in that lamp business because somebody really liked your shit."
It's true. I don't know why I put this up either, because I've got all my friends' artwork around, so I really shouldn't block that.
Yeah, I mean, like you're not putting anything up behind you. Like, is that like I don't see that super cool room image behind you. I just see the green screen. Do you know?
Well, and that super cool room isn't even. That's just an artist rendition of nothingness.
But what I'm saying is, all I see is your green sheet. I don't see that. I don't see that room behind. Like a green sheet is where you're superimposing the shit behind. There you go. Yeah, your room's way cooler. Wait, you got a bunch of bodybuilders? What's going on here, man? What's happening? What do you? Are those wrestlers?
Oh yeah.
Oh, see, we're getting into the inner sanctum. JT's inner sanctum.
Yeah, I have no shame though, so I'll talk about anything, anytime.
You shouldn't. You do you, my brother. You do you.
Bob, we are so happy that you came on tonight. I have had so much fun with you.
I love you guys both. You guys are amazing. Like Brandi, when the charts hit. So like in my pod, I've been doing, I'm working with a producer. Like we're trying to get, we're doing a second Gacy season because we think we know where there's additional victims, and like my pod, we really are victims advocates, and we think we know where they're buried. So, but at any rate, like Molly Mayock, she may have even reached out to you. She's like, I love Brandi. Like she's texting me. This is when like the charts first hit. Like she was following you on Twitter, and I'm like, she's awesome, man. I'm like, she's like I want to like suck her in somehow into my pod and like use her brain and just have her make charts for me. She's amazing. So like, right from that point on, like I love what you do. I love what you did. Like you're an absolute credit to our true crime community. So
thank you.
I'm like super thrilled to be here. And JT, you're just salt of the earth, bro. I love you, man. You are. You're like just a genuinely nice guy, which are hard to find in this world. So, I'm here for you guys, and you guys, whenever you want to hang. Obviously, we're gonna do it tomorrow too. But
yes,
I'm super grateful that you guys had me on, and thank you for promoting my shit. Any of you guys out there, I really think you'll dig my pod. I think it's one of the best in the game.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
Not even just the Lori Vallow part, but like just I think I started actually with your season 2, and then I went back. That's what I started with, and then I went back and did your season 1 after I had started on season 2. So I kind of started backwards because I found you, I think randomly. It was before you and I followed each other on Twitter. And so I found you randomly, and then when I saw you on Twitter, I was like, oh, Bob
Yeah.
Motta followed me.
I was so excited when because like the Gacy thing. I mean, my old man was his lawyer, so it's like I came
Right.
in with like different material, you know, and like I'm a very, very deep diver. If you do not like deep dives, then just listen to the docket. If you love deep dives, I got the deepest shit in the game. Like they're like
Yeah.
my Gacy season's 36 episodes. I actually blew the lid off that case in terms of what we discovered.
Yes.
And it's insane.
Yes.
Like I can't believe it wasn't national news
Yeah.
because it's crazy to me.
Listen,
Like it's
if you think you know the Gacy case,
You don't.
and you think you've seen all the documentaries and all that, you have no idea
Yeah,
at
it-
all.
and you
Start
gotta
Defense
know,
Diaries
my-
from round one.
it's not about Gacy. Like that shit's been done. I didn't give a shit
No.
about it. I have the tapes, so I played the tapes because I wanted those to be made public to the world.
Right.
Because it's like you never hear these.
Mhm.
They're a defense attorney. My dad trying to convince his client to tell him what's going on because that was an insanity defense. It was my dad prepping him for trial. You just never hear that shit. Like everything
Right.
you hear from serial killers is after the fact. They're on death row, pontificating and jerking off about how they didn't do the shit. This is different, and I wanted the world to hear it, and no one had ever heard them, so I include them. But our pod's about the victims because that was the
Yeah.
one thing that I never heard about in 40 years, and I followed the case. It was like part of my life. It's been part of my life for 40 years. I cried like at the end of the last episode. It was so cathartic.
Yeah.
That like just out of
Yeah.
my system after 43 years because it's been a weird part of my life. It's like imagine it. It's like I mean the guy was sending my father Christmas card. Like it's just been such a weird part of my life. It was so weird, But like I wanted to focus on the victims because I didn't know nothing, next to nothing about any of them.
Right.
So the victims, the investigation, the arrest, and the trial. It's different. If you do serial killers and that's not your shit, this isn't a serial. This is no fanboy Gacy shit.
Right.
It's the exact opposite of that.
And that's what I love so much about it because we've seen the other stuff, and this is just such a different. It's like it's the difference of like watching a football game on TV and then being in the stadium. It gives you a whole different perspective. You're seeing so much of the stuff that goes into making this thing that you thought you knew. It makes it so different, and that's what I loved about it.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much. Yeah, it was like, and it was such a weird way I developed it because when I had the tapes, I was like, so I just started a podcast and like started playing these tapes, and then I'm like, no, that would suck. So like I wanted to dig into the case, and like when and I'm digging into the case, and I find this like unbelievable fact that creates this massive moral dilemma that I don't want to give a spoiler about, but like when we uncover this thing, and it's not like it's like factually, I had these cops who had done 50, 60 interviews who always said the same shit, and I'm like, yo, will you guys tell because like I'm interviewing everybody that's alive except for the people that wouldn't come on, and I know why now after the fact. I know why Kim Byers wouldn't come on. It's because of what I uncovered. But at the end of the day, it was like morality wise, it was the right thing. It had to happen, but we can't pick and choose when the Constitution applies. We can't just start doing what they did. And remember, they didn't know he was a serial killer when they did what they did to get him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, it was, it was fun. It really is a cautionary tale because if my dad would have figured it out, it would have been a fucking nightmare of like catastrophic. Like I talk about like Bill Kunkel, who I loved, who was the prosecutor on that, who was kind of that season. If y'all haven't made it to the end of it, like Bill Kunkel performs his closing argument for me. The actual the man who put him away, he was kind enough, and he just died this year. Rest in peace, Bill Kunkel. Like he was kind enough to have us coming over, knowing I was the Bob Motta's son, his opposing counsel, but he respected my dad. And the man sat there for 4 hours and went through and performed his closing argument that only the people in the courtroom saw in one of the biggest cases in American history. Period.
Right.
Yep.
And the man read the whole thing, and I was like blown away. It's so powerful.
I had goosebumps and chills.
Oh, dude, it was so good. Like when he passed, I I emailed his daughter, and I'm like, man, I'd like to make you like, because this was your father's legacy. Your dad did this. Your dad put this fucking guy away. And it's a huge feat, and it's a massive, like feather in his cap. And like I asked her if she wanted me to make, like I was actually gonna pay to get a vinyl. Like I wanted to get a vinyl record, so
Wow.
so she could have it.
Yeah.
So her kids could throw it on a record player and play their grandfather just crushing the game and putting away one of the worst people that this world has ever known. So
Yeah.
Check out the pod. It's pretty good.
Yeah. It's amazing. If you haven't, you need to. Defense Diaries.
We've had a bunch of people in the chat be like, I've just subscribed.
Yeah.
Just subscribed.
I appreciate y'all. I really hope you dig it. I think you will. And you guys, thank you so much for allowing me to promote it on here. And like I said, I'm at your disposal whenever you guys need me.
We will take you up on it.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
And y'all join us tomorrow because he is going to be here going over everything about the cult formation. So before we do our live stream tomorrow, because I think there's a lot of misconception about how that happened. This was not like a very long drawn out thing. This all happened pretty fast. So
it indeed.
Yeah. So
we got Chad like in October of 2018, and shit's going down by like early 2019. So it's very short duration. Like whatever, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Like I'll just start talking about it again. It's really like an affliction at this point.
Well, yeah, we hear you,
Bob. Thank you so much.
All right, y'all. I'll jump off. See you guys. Thanks for hanging with us.
All right.
See you tomorrow. As a matter of fact.
All right. See you tomorrow, Bob.
See you tomorrow, Bob.
Okay, ciao.
Oh my gosh, how awesome was that, everybody?
I love him. He's so fun.
I know. I'm so happy. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Brandi, I guess we can talk about tomorrow. Obviously, Bob's coming. We're going to talk a little bit about the cult stuff. Are we sticking to that? I'm asking you now instead of like behind the scenes. We got audio tomorrow too, right?
We got audio tomorrow. So the plan is we are going to try to spend the time before the audio drops. We are going to spend some of that time. Bob's going to come on and we are going to, I've got some graphics. I don't yet. I will. I'll work on it tomorrow. But kind of get the idea of who's who and the timeline. We did the history lesson on all the stuff leading up to, the cult formation and everything. But the actual, and we went over like the family history, who's who, but we haven't got into some of the friends stuff yet. So that's going to be what we do tomorrow before we get into the actual audio. That's the plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we've got a couple of other tiny surprises this week coming up, right?
We have a... Yes.
Should we hold?
We should hold. We should hold.
All right,
yeah.
we're going to hold.
We'll
hold till tomorrow.
Let me just, we have, it's not a tiny surprise. It's a huge surprise. And I am so excited about it. And I am totally fangirling. And we have a guest that is coming to the live stream this week.
Yep.
And that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. And I'm not going to use my green screen this time.
Thanks so much for joining us, guys. Good night. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And we will see y'all tomorrow night.
Be safe. Smile. Bye, everybody.